Right, welcome in, folks, to the Can We Kick It podcast. I'm your host, Michael, along with Chuck here.
Hey, hey, what's up, Mikey boy?
Not much, man. Been a long time. I don't know why we keep having these long spurts in between. Love the Brockmeyer background for those of you who can't see it in the audio. He's rocking a nice Brockmeyer background. If you guys haven't seen that show, check it out. It's on IFC, I think, or Hulu. But yeah, what's good, man? You're up in New Jersey, doing a little bit of traveling.
Yeah, in my second home,
Yeah.
which those that know me, I spend a lot of time up here for work and personal. So yeah, just gonna be up here for the week, and thankfully we were able to podcast. So we didn't.
Yeah.
I had been home for a few weeks, and we still haven't found time to do the pod. So
It's been good. I,
um
I took like this last weekend to just blow through a ton of stuff. Like so many shows I'm caught up on. Um, it's been insane how
yeah,
much I've been watching.
yeah, same. And I mean, like on the plane up here. I watched, and we'll talk about this too. I watched the first three episodes of Stick
Oh
on
yeah,
Apple TV, and I read 145 pages of Hail Mary by Andy Weir, the book
nice,
that's going to be made into a movie. Book is awesome, and
nice.
but the only drawback when you have a Kindle and you rent through the Libby app from the library is that it runs out of time, and so I think I had it for 14 days. And on the plane was the last day I had it. And so I read 145 pages out of 400 something. And now I, I have a 4 month wait again for the book. So
That's why you got
I'm
to
gonna
get
be,
multiple library cards like I do on Libby.
oh, nice.
I've
Yeah,
got
that,
like four library cards, so that way I've got like a complete selection. Yeah, it's that's the way to game that system. I do like Libby. I've been turned on to that for free. Yeah.
yeah, it's nice having it free, but I do like, I'm at the point in my life where I may need to spend $20 just to have the convenience of spending 2 days reading it and then have it sit in my Kindle for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So,
Got to have your books.
but
Yeah.
yeah, and I
Uh,
I also watched like 6 episodes of Your Friends and Neighbors too as well. So
Nice.
um
Getting caught
um
up on that.
I need a 7, 8, 9 to round that out. But yeah, it did the same thing, blowing through a lot of TV. Uh Went and saw Dogma at the movie theater.
I almost
Um
did the same. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, went with uh Blanca and our good friends Sharon and Bob, who you've met.
Yep.
So went to the good old Regal Edwards on 59 in Greenway.
Oh, love that one.
And
That was always my favorite. Grand
yeah,
Palace.
so
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So God, it was so good. I've seen it like a million times. It was just nice to see in the theater.
Yeah. Yeah. Jackie's
Yeah.
brother wanted to see it. I think we spent all day doing other stuff, and we were like, "Yeah, I'm too tired to go to the movie." And I was like, "I just buy it. I think I own it, like on Apple." So like, yeah, love Dogma. So funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
catching up on a bunch. I've been watching stuff that's not even on our list. I mean, we talk about your friends and neighbors. I finished that. I've been watching some movies lately. I don't know what it is about movies at the moment. I watched the Gran Turismo movie, watched the Led Zeppelin documentary, Becoming Led Zeppelin, Aces.
Yeah.
I finished
Nice.
You, which was bangers. And I finally caught up and finished The Last of Us.
Ah, yes.
I'm only weeks behind on that. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, we're not gonna talk about it. Yeah, I finished it 2 or 3 weeks before you.
Yeah.
I think I enjoyed it more than the majority of people. I think a lot of people dropped after Pedro Pascal. Um, his character
I
was
could
donezo, but
I could see the drop off. I
um,
see why people were like, "Yeah, I'm out on the show." I love the ending when you got to like Isaiah's stuff and like everything going on in San Francisco or where I'm assuming that's where that was. That
Seattle.
whole thing was
Oh,
amazing with scars or the scabs or whatever they call them, the cult. Yeah,
oh yeah. I like the boat trip that um, Ellie made across the sea, like in. 50-foot waves in a little dinghy, and then she washed up right on the island. Uh, with the, I mean, you played the. Have you played the second game?
No, only
Like,
like the
is there
first
like
like
a,
yeah.
uh, is there a little kid that's like the leader of this tribe and like just is like Joaquin Phoenix and fucking Gladiator, like
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah, I
Ellie,
gotta finish that.
like um yeah, it was got a little wonky. I think season three. I look forward to seeing Abby's Seattle journey and
For sure.
then season four.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been, we watched The Last of Us. I watched 100 Foot Wave. It's only 5 episode, third season. Some really good stuff there. The
I know you and Marcus
Rehearsal.
raved about that. Yeah, that's been
Yeah.
big hit for HBO. I'm going to HBO. Fuck Max. I'm going
And
H.
it, yeah, well, I think now you can call it HBO or HBO Max because whatever it is now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think there's some crazy amount of like hours of footage over. I think it's spanned or they started recording footage for it in 2014 and then all the way to I think they've even recorded up to like 2025, but like the season one, two, and three only go up to like 2023.
Hmm.
And so I mean just because it's big wave surfing and they go whenever there's the opportunity and
Yeah.
then they film everything and then so it's such a massive undertaking
Yeah.
to edit and to put together episodes and the narratives around there. But it'll be interesting to see if there's another season with that because it kind of ends a certain way that kind of tries to wrap a story up.
Interesting.
Um, but and then I watched The Rehearsal, which I've been trying to get you into.
Yep.
Um, season two with Nathan Fielder, one of the comedic geniuses, like very understated and such a study of humanity to watch an entire season of that. When you watch it, we're gonna have to do
Oh
a
yeah,
whole
it's going to be a standalone.
rewatch of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a whole separate episode.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of TV we've been burning through without really talking about it. So
Yeah, there's shows like that weren't even out this year that I like. I finished Derek with Ricky Gervais, where he's working like an old folks home. Hilarious. I watched the
yeah.
cartoon show called Hoops with Jake Johnson from New Girl, where he's like this really horrible basketball coach at a high school. It was hilarious. I mean, it was brutal, but it was hilarious. So there's a ton of stuff out there. And then I just watched The Accountant 2 last night with
Uh,
Batfleck and Joey B. Johnny.
John Bernthal.
Yeah, yeah.
You never watched We Own the City, did you?
No, it's on my list. I literally
Oh
almost
my
started it
God.
yesterday. Yeah,
I think that it's so slept on as a show. It may be one of the best like shows that HBO's ever done.
I
It's
believe it.
just so insane.
Yeah,
Um, uh, so yeah, I mean, uh,
there's
it's
so
so
much.
good.
Yeah, there's so much
Yeah.
that we've watched we haven't caught up on. But I think the two I think we want to talk about tonight, right? One being Andor, right, which wrapped up on Disney Plus
Hmm.
with its second season. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Stick, which is new to Apple TV Plus. Um,
Yeah.
you want to jump
And
off with
just
Andor?
yeah, just one real quick thing
Yeah,
too. For we do have a couple of big shows coming up in June. Um, well, we also had Tire season two, which you're a big fan of.
loved
We
it.
both watched season one. Um, that's out, which you watch. Resident Alien, which me and our coworker Marcus are huge fans of. I haven't watched the episode yet. I'm saving it for plane ride back Thursday, but the first episode was last Friday. Um, there. And then we have Squid Game and The Bear coming
Yeah.
in the end of June. I think like the 25th and 26th. So
Yeah, we're like two
some
weeks out from that. Yeah.
huge shows coming up.
Yeah, we got the green light on Slow Horses season 5. That's in September, along
Yeah, I
with
saw
Stranger
that.
Things. So we've got some stacked releases coming, like double month. So it'll be good.
Yeah. But yeah, so now we can what's our thoughts on Andor?
So Andor, right? For those who haven't seen Rogue One, you need to watch Rogue One. It ties up the end of Cassian Andor, right, and leads into Star Wars: A New Hope, Episode 4. But Andor is telling the story of like his involvement into the rebellion and his hesitation to do so. He's got family, he's got people, right, that he cares about. He can't just burn, everything at the stake he's trying not to anyway, to fight for the
Hmm.
rebellion. I think this show, season 1 was amazing, right? The last
Yeah.
3 or 4 episodes in the prison were amazing. I think this season was just as great on a more, not as a grand scale, but I think the most underutilized character was Luthen Rail with Stellan
Yeah.
Skarsgård. I want to see freaking movie about that guy.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty kind of um just I think you have some really good characters that you could spend a lot of more time on. So, Luthen Rail, basically his kind of unraveling um, during the season and kind of straddling the line between his own ambitions and the rebellion. And I mean, you kind of see that struggle with a lot of the characters and what's their beliefs and what's their kind of at the core of why they're doing stuff. And where Cassian is really around protecting um I say Bessie, but that's not her name. His
Fix.
Bix. Yeah, I know this is the B. I'm like, why do I want to call her Bessie? But like, you see what's there, like what kind of drives them. And but I think, you know, it's really one of the hallmarks of Andor season 1 and 2 is that you don't have to be big into Star Wars and the lore to really enjoy the show because it's a
Yeah,
good show at its core, like it when you think about other Star Wars entities and you think like, you know, the Mandalorian and you've got little Grogu and Din Djarin and some of the Star Wars stuff and you got Wookiees and Chewbacca and you got you know this is really at its core like a political drama,
thriller.
thriller,
Yeah,
and kind of like it's just a story that works whatever timeline or whatever universe it's set in.
yeah. I,
So
I really like it because I've been reading a bunch of stuff how you can have a great Star Wars story without
yeah,
Jedi and lightsaber.
yeah,
Those things are great on their own as long as, they don't
yeah,
screw them up. And they do it the right way. But the show really was about character development and rebellion and what it takes to to get this rebellion off the ground. Because I think one of the favorite moments that I liked in the show was you've got like 3 different fronts that are leading the rebellion. You've got the
yeah,
people on Yavin 4, right, who are like the
yeah,
base. And then you've got Luthen, who's deep in enemy territory. And then you've got
yeah,
Saw Gerrera, who's like attacking the front line, and all 3 of them are
yeah,
hating on each other, and they're like, "Oh, Luthen's doing his own thing," and it's like, dude, he is like I'm rooting for the guy. He's sacrificing his whole life,
yeah,
and you're just hiding out on Yavin, like, "Oh, I'll do this, blah blah." Like, yeah,
yeah.
and then
And
Saw Gerrera's like,
Saw's
"I'm
in
gonna
there
blow everything
huffing
up."
he's huffing the good, and with the bomb specialist guy or whatever, and
So wacky.
yeah, and it's blowing everything up.
Yeah,
He's got a gravity bong
yeah,
or something over there, and just like. let's get high and go fuck shit up.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
but yeah, you see the rise of the rebellion from the seeds, so um, which it with the Star Wars story, you have, I mean, how many like 24 episodes of
yeah,
kind of planting the seeds of the rebellion and then having it evolve into like say, you know, going into the Rogue One and how it eventually ends. But um yeah, and it's one of those things where as you're watching, you know, of course a TV show you can predict that okay, Cassian, and you know what Rogue One that he's going to be one of the rebel leaders, but like that's not there early on. It's really about
yeah,
protecting his family and you know, and even like say Luthen Rael and Mon Mothma is about enriching themselves, and then they both, and especially Mon Mothma becomes more like kind of radicalized, into the rebellion,
yep.
um, through political choosing. So
Yeah, the
I
Gorman
think,
Massacre 2.0 really didn't do anybody favors. Yeah,
yeah, and that's often like um, that kind of fascist philosophy of peace through strength, and where as like on the Gorman front and that narrative and the empire, with some people and it truly believing that they're doing good for the people, and it's like you kind of get a glimpse of like, hey, that's not you know, leading by control and force and um, you know, making choices against citizens is historically not going to work out,
right,
over time. It's going to lead to a rebellion, whether this is a Star Wars story or a real life historical through religion, through, you know, other uprisings throughout history.
right.
There's they tell this story with a really cool way. So,
Yeah, there's
uh,
anecdotal truth to it, right? I mean, it's and
yeah,
I think the show is crazy in that I've heard a lot of theories around, Galen Erso was the one who would design the Death Star for, um, oh man, Ben Mendelsohn's character. I can't remember. Director Krennic. Um,
Krennic.
and how they did all these tests and they need the Calaxium that's on Gorman. And I was reading how there's a theory that they didn't actually need that, but Galen Erso pushed for it to help start the rebellion along, like from his own
Yeah,
side. So there's a lot of crazy theories out there and how they all ring pretty true to a lot of like history and recent events and stuff like that. But uh, I do find one thing funny. The show does have humorous moments, and um, other than like Diego Luna, like Andor, like shooting somebody, and Mon Mothma's like freaking out because he just shot somebody, and she's like, "This is not what I signed up for." And he's like, "Yeah, welcome to the rebellion." Like it's like, yeah,
yeah,
this is what you've like been leading this whole time, like
yeah,
through your
yeah,
trust, right? All this money that you're pouring into the rebellion. Um, and then how
yeah,
Alan Tudyk playing the robot. I'm not
yeah,
K3S 2S or whatever's now. I don't even
yeah,
remember. Um, went in to save Andor and everybody in the apartment, and he's like holding the stormtrooper as like a human shield. When in reality he was like laser proof, like blast proof.
yeah,
So he was just
yeah,
doing it for the
yeah.
love of the game. That shit was hilarious.
Yeah, and you make a good point because especially with the Mon Mothma piece, it's like whenever a high level leader goes out into the field and they're like, yeah, you know, this is how the sausage is made. All right, I don't want to know that.
We'll
I'm
keep
good
hands
with,
clean.
yeah, I'm good with having enough layers in between where I can be oblivious to the blood and sweat that goes into it. Um, and I can just look at the top line. So
Yeah.
it's Yeah, I think that's
This
what makes it, even though it's takes place in a universe that we don't know, it's very relatable with
right? Because even the Empire had that, right, where they just have these levels of insulation where um
yeah.
Major I can't even I don't even remember ever hearing his name said, but like Partagas, right, who was Dedra Miro's
Yeah.
boss. Like
Yeah.
he's like, oh, we want Gorman to do this, and then he sends like Dedra and Cyril to do it, and they both have like doubts about slaughtering all these people, and he's like, yeah, it worked out in the long run. Like all this insulation is so funny.
Yeah, and did you I mean at certain points I thought Dedra and Cyril would like have, kind of that aha moment where this is wrong, and
Yeah,
then neither of them did. Like there's this experiments that happened like back in, it's some kind of test. I forget it. A friend was telling us about it. I did some research on it, but where they had people, volunteers that, they did the study where you come in and they were instructed to shock people, so they like, they press a button and would shock people. And there was like 90% would continue to do it even if they were hurting people because that's what they were told to do,
yeah.
and like they never stopped to question whether it was real or like this person was going to die or hurt. They were just, it's kind of like this is
And
what the superiors, this is what someone is telling me to do.
the scintilla of power, right? It's the
Yeah.
Stanford prison experiment. I give you a little bit of authority, and you just take it to the worst extreme. And I think Cyril had a little bit of that moment right up until
Yeah.
he got killed. Um, but I think his mom didn't mourn too hard on that one, considering how bit of a
Yeah.
prune she was. But I do find it funny that Dedra wound up in the same similar prison that Andor was in,
Yeah.
but for I'm guessing the women's correction, building stuff for the Death Star.
Yeah.
Thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. That was great.
That was some good poetic justice. Yeah.
Yeah. And the experiment I was talking about is called the Milgram experiment.
Uh,
And it was a psychological experiment in the 60s to study obedience to authority. So do some research on that because
I'll check that out.
there's a documentary and stuff like that about it. It's very, I went down a rabbit hole on it one night when a friend was telling me about it. So, um, but yeah, yeah, with her seeing the poetic justice of being like in that similar style prison of
Yeah.
that Cassian was in. And when the lights go out and then the floor, the
Boom.
floor turns to, yeah, and you're
Yeah.
like,
It's like, oh yeah, she's locked in. She just starts crying. It's like, oh yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
But yeah,
yeah,
great.
Andor is so good.
Such a
Um,
great show. I hate that it was only 2 seasons. I heard that they wanted to do like five. But
well,
they had to trim it way back.
if you think about this as, you know, there was what, 24 episodes?
Yeah,
I mean, if this is HBO, this is 4 seasons of 6 episodes,
that's true. That's true.
or 3 seasons of 8. Um, so I mean, I'm kind of glad they did what they did because I'm thinking like, you know, how they're talking about The Last of Us is going to be like 4 seasons now. So I'm like, we still have 2 more seasons, and like the last 3 seasons are going to be the second video game. Like,
Jesus.
like why?
Yeah. Why are we dragging it out?
I get sometimes you want to milk the cow, but give me something that's really good in the right amount of episodes, and
Yeah.
you know,
Tell a
but
story. Don't milk the cow. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but
But kudos to Diego Luna. I'm interested to see what his next projects are going to be. Um,
poor man's Pedro Pascal.
yeah, kind of. Yeah. Except with a better accent. I love he's really great
Yeah, yeah.
accent. Yes. And then yeah, Alan Tudyk, underrated actor, resident alien, plays the robot in this, is playing a robot in the new Superman movie coming up. I mean, the guy's prolific and nobody
Hasn't he
knows who
played
he
a
is.
robot in other things before too?
Oh yeah, tons of stuff. Yeah. Guy does a lot of voice acting. Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Favorite
yeah,
character
he's
from Andor?
favorite character. The bellhop from the hotel in Gorman.
Class.
Now, in all seriousness, probably the Gorman spiders.
Oh, yeah, those are pretty good.
Actually, Cyril's mom.
Oh, yes. Coldest woman outside of the planet Hoth. Insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
What about yours?
I loved when Cyril Dedra's talking to his mom and he's like in the other room laying on the bed just
Yeah.
like that was hilarious. So off the wall for a Star Wars bit.
Yeah.
Hey, for me, honestly, it's tied between Stellan Skarsgård, Luthen Rail, and I really liked director Krennic, Ben Mendelsohn. That guy can
Yeah.
play really cruel and overpowering very subtly. I really liked him,
Yeah.
and I thought he did great in the show. Obviously, he
Yeah.
goes into Rogue One, and we knows what happens with that, but glad they brought him back. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in all seriousness, I think, I mean, the easy answer is, Cassian Andor. Um, I did like uh the who was the lady that was showing the artwork to Lonnie? They were Lonnie, the redheaded guy that was the spy.
Oh,
Um,
Clea.
Playa.
Yeah,
I really
Luthen's
liked Playa.
adopted daughter or whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
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 and
yeah,
then the
yeah.
backstory of how he got Clea.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I think I really I I really enjoyed like her commitment to the rebellion and the kind of the backstory that it would have been cool if I really knew her name before saying that that was my favorite character. But
You
yeah.
did such an impression. Yeah.
And I don't know if that guy's name was Lonnie, but that's what I called him.
I don't blame you because some of these characters I don't even yeah, it was hard for me to understand their names sometimes. I didn't even know that like Dedra's boss's name was apparently Partegas or something. I like
Jose Partegas,
yeah,
and
I they're
he's
just
like
all over the map with this stuff. And then there's Bix and I'm like, "Oh, Bix was a girl who apparently had uh, Cassian's baby at the end of the thing." And now there's
yeah, Boso. Yeah, Boso was his brother.
yeah, so
Basso.
yeah, then there was like Willman, who was like the friend that always hung out. I don't know, dude. That was
Yeah,
hanging out with
yeah,
Saw Gerrera. I don't know. Lot of characters, lot of characters. But
yeah.
um, give me a rating out of 10. For me, I'd put it at an 8. Where would you put this season? Or series, right? Because it's a short series. We could clump it together. Where would you put the series on an out of 10?
I would say series like 8.5. And I think I would put probably both seasons at that. I mean, I think it could be higher. It is nowadays 12 episodes of a 1 hour show is very time consuming.
Yeah.
But I never, like we talked about this with Silo, how like 80% of the season last season was like slow and kind of uninteresting, but like the two the other 2 hours were bangers. Like, but Andor was like consistently solid throughout. There was
Yeah.
never like a slow, I mean, slow in the fact that like, people were probably thinking like it was nonstop action, but it's not that. But there was no, I don't know, lulls. There was no kind of crappy side stories that no one cares about. Like even in like Landman and some other shows like 1923, I'm like there's like a couple stories where I'm like I just want to fast forward when it's on. It's like pointless. And maybe that's more of a Taylor Sheridan thing, but like um and an old school TV thing with but like Andor there was every story was I mean we talked about all the way down to like Cassian's brother, and even when they're like in the wheat fields of fucking yip yap and trying, that part is interesting.
Yeah,
It's like,
we get the first ever like attempted rape scene in a Star Wars movie. Like this, like so much heavy stuff.
yeah,
Like for me, like you could have trimmed a little bit of the fat, like him going back to Yavin with the stolen TIE fighter, and like the rebels are like fighting it, and I was just like, we know he's gonna make it
I,
out of here. Let's
I
go
think
forward.
I think that's a great point. I would say that part where they had the TIE fighter and then like the two little factions were being little whiny um babies to each other and like, you know, the different I mean that but that had a little bit of a purpose,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
because he had the TIE fighter, but it yeah, did spend probably a little too much time on it.
yeah.
So
Love the steel and the TIE fighter. Give me all of that. But
yeah,
I don't need to see the unrest and the rebellion. I didn't really matter. But um, great show. Otherwise,
yeah,
I don't know what Cyril and Dedra's relationship was other than a quid pro quo. Let's hook up every once in a while. I'll tell your mom to piss off kind of thing.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
fully
Why you
understand
cry in the
it.
corner?
Yeah. But yeah, heck of a show. That's how Disney needs to do Star Wars, is like that. Make it a story. Don't just milk it. So,
Yeah.
um,
Anything else on Andor?
no, I'm excited to talk about Stick.
Yeah. So we'll just talk episode one, but
Yeah,
you watched the first one, I watched the first three. They
yeah.
released the first three on June 4th. Um, I'm a bigger fan of Owen Wilson than I am. I mean, sorry, Luke Wilson than Owen Wilson. I know that's a contrarian point of view. But I think my worry with the show, so Stick is
Yeah, you're a
it
golf
kind
guy.
of
Give me your pitch on
yeah.
Stick, right?
So it's kind of like Ted Lasso. So like this is so both on Apple TV. Ted Lasso is great for the story, and the soccer is shit. As much as you try to do it, you know, and I love seeing them use, Crystal Palace, the stadium as AFC Richmond's, you know, they tried to do soccer. It's hard to emulate, a professional soccer game. So I think they did okay. And the same thing is like with sticks so far. But I think like, you're not going to make I mean, golf, the swing has to be at least some kind of accurate. I mean, there's just some wildly swings that like in the first episode where he shows up and he's like, "Here, hit this 200 something yards through these trees around here
Get
and
into
into
this
this open
dumpster.
yellow dumpster."
Yeah.
Yeah. You could even have a pro probably do that 1 out of 10 times. I mean, and land in the general vicinity or get it to roll, to just land it in there. So, I mean, you have to extend belief, but I think I always worry when it's Owen Wilson by himself. Like, I love him. And, well, actually, he's not really by himself so far. So, because I love him with Vince Vaughn and Wedding Crashers, but like getting him by himself is maybe a little different. But with Mark Maron, I think him and Mark Maron work so well, and it even builds throughout the first three episodes. But
Surprisingly
I,
well. When I saw Mark Maron
yeah,
hang out with him, I was like, these two guys? And then it worked. I was like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah. And the first episode is that where they're at the bar and they do the putting thing,
yeah. They
and
hustle the
then
guy. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then you're like, see them, and you're like, I wouldn't even. I thought this was. I didn't think it was a hustle at all, and then
No.
um. So yeah, I think the kid who he's starting to teach, it'll be interesting to see how he is as an actor throughout the show because it's pretty rough. I think the first few episodes with him, but and then the his mom by the third episode, like you'll fall in love. She's
Ah,
amazing. Like
nice.
she be like the first episode you're like kind of, and then by the third you're like, oh my God, she's like the Keely of Ted Lasso. Like she
Nice.
becomes just like you're like I want to hang out with. I want to go on this trip with them, and like um it's becomes like she would be fun to hang out with, and
Yeah.
um so yeah, it really, you know, from a TV watching and kind of that Scrubs, Ted Lasso, shrinking, kind of that comedic quality. Um
It does. It has
it's
that
it's
lighthearted, like troubled past redemption story base going for it. I know they're
yeah.
probably going to change it up a little bit, but I like the first episode in that he was selling some heavy dude like a $1,200 driver and selling him like crazy. Kudos to him. The guy he almost
Oh
had me buying one. Um, and then he's like teaching some golf and all. And he's just a burnout, right? He's a guy that
yeah,
peaked, right, and then screwed up, and then we start to find out toward the end of the first episode, right, that he lost somebody and it really screwed him up mentally, and he's just never gotten on with his life, unlike his
yeah,
ex-wife, who they
yeah,
still like share the home like years later,
yeah,
hilariously. But really glad to see Mark Maron pop in as like comedic relief. He was his caddy for
yeah,
15 years.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't wait to see more of that.
Yeah,
But
I hope they
I'll
do
be
like
interested to see if
flashbacks where he's
it,
caddying him. He's like, in his Mark Maron like shtick.
yeah.
Uh, but
I'll be
you're
interested to see if
just
the show keeps on with like the kid, like being the because at some point Owen Wilson's got to get a shot, right? At some point, and he's gonna be like, "Nah, my time has passed. Like I'm here to like back this kid."
yeah,
Like that, I think that's gonna kind of be the story. But um, I I'm not entirely sold on like you on Owen Wilson. I'm more of a Luke Wilson fan. We got Old School, we got Idiocracy, Bottle Rocket, ton of stuff
yeah,
that he's in. I mean, he's that Owen Wilson's in that one too, Bottle Rocket.
yeah,
A lot of Wes Anderson stuff, but um I think the end of the episode where he gets emotional kind of got to me, and I was like, okay, all right, this show's got depth. Let's see where this goes.
yeah,
But
yeah, and it's gonna touch into that realm, to help drive the story for sure,
thought it was hilarious.
and make you root for him.
He's got like five different shticks going. He's like, "The Price is Right" is like his like slogan or whatever because his name is
Yeah,
Price, and then he's called Stick, and like yeah, and
yeah.
he drives it.
I love how they're like they. I can't remember the first episode. They're like, "Price is Right." Like, I don't get it, or
Yeah,
like he gets in the car. They're like, "What?"
yeah. He's like, it's not that deep. It's just turn of phrase. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah. So I'm looking forward
One
to
other
getting to
thing
watch that. Yeah,
going back, yeah, going back to the where he's selling the guy the driver or whatever in the beginning.
yeah,
That that is the most on the money piece from the golf aspect because, you know, I've played golf since I was 10 years old, and at 46, was it 40? Yeah, 46, I bought my first like set of new clubs, and I went and got fitted, and I'm reading Reddit stuff and going to a pro, get fitted in the simulator, and then you're in there and you're hitting your old clubs and to get a baseline, and then you go with your new clubs or like you're trying out different ones, and they're pushing you towards certain ones, and they're like, wow. Look at that. That went 20 yards farther than your other, club. And you're like,
yeah,
wow, this is gonna fix everything. Like, and then you walk out of there and you're like, you go play around and you're like, cool, I'm shooting the same scores that you know, I have. So it really is such especially for golfers my age, and you maybe have played with hand-me-down clubs your whole life, and then you have money now, and then you buy like a new set, and then and then like you're going to a guy that gets paid to sell this and to get you to get lessons and all
yeah.
this. um so and I think so I totally understand from that point, especially too if you have an ex-pro in there and they're like, "Oh yeah, you have, you don't have those show muscles. Like you have like if there's a fire, like I would come to you to help, save me because, like
You
it's
got
just
you got that what was it, that farm boy strength.
yeah,
The tree falls
yeah,
on me. I want you to lift
yeah,
it off
yeah,
of me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So great. Oh my gosh.
But you texted me and I totally missed this earlier. And then the best lines from the show, like do you remember what you texted me?
Oh yeah.
Uh
It's from the first episode when he first meets
yeah,
the kid. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
He's like,
It's-
hey, people call me Stick. What's your name? And he's like, go fuck yourself.
yeah.
He's like, okay. And then the guy comes up and he's like, you know who that was? He's like, told me his name was Go Fuck Yourself, but pretty sure that's an alias.
Yeah.
It was so dry. I loved it. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
That was super clever.
Yeah.
But it is funny because the premise that a I, I guess he's a teenager, but maybe not in high school. Maybe he's in high school, but apparently he doesn't go to school and just works at a grocery store. Like, even through 3 episodes, I'm not super clear on his age, but like the premise of a teenager going to a driving range and like collecting balls and just hitting without permission versus like going to the little automated stand and tapping your phone and paying $8 for a bucket of balls. Like, I mean, I know like kids are, you can have some rebellious streak, but like playing golf at a driving range, you know, and sneaking free balls is kind of a very stretch of a premise, but
Yeah.
it's I mean,
And why did Will work at MIT in Goodwill Hunting as a
because
janitor?
he liked apples.
That's right.
How do you
Apples,
like them
golf balls, they're
apples?
both round.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But
Subconsciously, they wanted to eat it, right?
that kid wasn't working at the driving range. He was a
He was sneaking onto it.
stalker with an abusive boss at the
Yeah,
grocery store, and just sneaking onto the driving range. It wasn't
yeah,
like, he wasn't like driving the golf ball cart at night and like was
right.
honing his skills in the dark out there,
Fishing out golf balls from the pond.
Apple Boy. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah. It'll be interesting. Um, I think he's like 19 or 18 because his mom was like, "Oh, he hasn't picked up a club since he was 14," and I'm like, "Okay, maybe
oh
it's
yeah,
4 years, 5 years." He's definitely like out of high school. I think he's working this like stalker gig
yeah,
at,
that's
at the
true.
grocery store. It's a minority
Like he
thing.
just gave up on life,
Yeah, I
that
love the storyline that they're building. Um,
the other piece that I thought was really good that kind of hit home was like, and I'm sure we'll get more into this backstory, but how, as a former sports parent who was probably a little like the kid's dad at 14, like what you see with parents whenever their kid is doing good versus doing bad, and how I don't, oh, you haven't got to this part yet, but you learn more about the kid's dad that's not there in the
lots of
first three
fun.
episodes,
Yeah.
and then like kind of why he quit golf at 14, and you see kind of the American sports parent culture, not probably American, but sports parent culture,
Anywhere.
and living through their kids. Is a very, I had this moment, this kind of, I've had these self-reflective moments like multiple times throughout this, and thankfully I was able to do that a little bit in the moment when the kids were younger. But yeah, oh, it's you're just like, mm, nah, yeah, yeah, I can see why the kid quit golf at 14.
A lot of kids have
Like,
Jamie Tartt's dad for sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that was another theme in Ted Lasso. So, um, yeah, very similar style shows and messaging so far. But Um, yeah, I mean, it's I think Apple's creating quite a there is a chasm of comedies like in that traditional like old style network comedy vein when you think about news radio, Scrubs, like
Mm.
kind of those, you know, those those kind of comedies. So you either get like, you know, kind of raunchier, you know, comedies or kind of rom-coms and now it seems like, Apple's been able to put together a few good shows of this. And and this was a very welcome and I think what also I really like is, I watched those 3 episodes and I've been doing a couple of rewatches and the two rewatches that I did before like almost 100%. Well, I did both shows 100% were Mr. Robot and The Leftovers. So going from
Yeah.
both two intensely emotional, grieving, questioning life and then going to Stick, it was like,
Yeah.
he could say anything. This is gonna be great.
Super
I
uplifting.
I
Yeah.
don't want to slit my wrist
You're
anymore.
right.
It's like
Why don't you throw in reading Animal Farm while you're at it? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and like yeah, there's a Mein Kampf was next. So
Yeah.
it's just yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have some light stuff. Apple's doing pretty good by having some lighter shows on, right? Ted Lasso, Shrinking, Stick. To some degree, I'll say just watching the first episode. But it's good to see that there's these different types of shows out there. And Apple is starting to get some bigger stars pulled into the mix, right? Not that
Yeah.
Jason Sudeikis was big, but that you create a character off of a commercial, and Shrinking is
Yeah.
coming out of left field to some degree, and now you got Stick, which ironically is going to lead right up to the release of Happy Gilmore 2,
Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
that's on a different network. I think that's intentional. So,
Yeah. No, I think that'll be nice to kind of energize that. And it's funny, like just a little golfing aside is since COVID, I mean, golf was like kind of dying before COVID. And, it was easy to get tee times. Courses were like not being as well maintained, like golfing viewership was down. And then after COVID, like when people just wanted to go outside and they saved up money and it's just kind of golf's just been like,
it's
I mean, I play every Saturday and at all courses around Houston in this league, and everything is booked.
yeah,
Like I took off like last Tuesday to play golf with a friend in Deer Park, and like every tee time was full.
yeah,
And this is like a Tuesday, a Tuesday during the
work day.
week in
Yeah.
a suburb of Houston, and and it's just it's had this really big like renaissance and which I think is a perfect timing for this show and then Happy Gilmore too. So
Yeah, there's something
it,
going on in the golf community, right? I think, post COVID, we're seeing the rise of simulators. We're seeing the rise of like smaller courses in cities,
mhm.
like in urban environments where you can go do, a 3 or 6, hole thing. Tiger Woods has got his like indoor Tiger
Yeah,
Games or whatever it's called. Even my buddy's, developing that golf bag, lowercase. I
yeah,
mean, there's something
yeah,
about the golf industry right now that's really, really popping off for the next generation. And maybe it is just about
yeah,
being outdoors, and not being inside all the time. So it's super interesting that all of this is kind of coming up now because I watching this, and you play golf a lot, and my brother, my brother-in-law was just in town. I call him my brother-in-law. He was like, "Hey, let's go golfing," and I was like, "Dude,
yeah,
I don't have a set of, clubs. I got nothing. I
yeah,
get my baseball bat, but it's making me want to buy a set of clubs, right? A set
yeah,
of
yeah,
rackets, but." Yeah, so it's good to see the show coming on and Owen Wilson getting a great start. Let's see if this thing gets nominated for some Emmys. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully it continues. I really liked all three episodes. So you
nice,
watch one, it definitely keeps growing in the right direction. So um yeah, highly recommend it so far.
perfect. Anything else?
No, I didn't think we talked that much about Stick, but when it involves golf, like I could
Yeah,
talk fucking forever. So
we're getting after it. I like
um
it.
yeah.
But that's perfect.
Plus yeah, so yeah, no, we it was nice to do a pod after another like 3, 4 weeks of taking off. So
Yeah, nice little hiatus, and yeah, tune in next week. We got to talk The Last of Us a little bit in more in depth. I finished You. I'd love to. I've got my nitpicks with the final episode on that. There's a ton of stuff. I mean, we got to talk to rehearsal. We got a standalone. We got to do with that, and then we got to keep going with Stick. And this all builds up to The Bear. I'm debating on doing a rewatch of The Bear because now that's coming up in like 2 weeks. So a
mhm.
lot on the plate going on. And there's just a ton of stuff. So. Um, Tune in next week. We're going to be dropping new episodes, try to do it more frequently as we usually are. Um, Check out the website, check out the podcast platforms, check out the Insta. Tell everybody about it. And yeah, thanks for kicking it with us. And as cousin likes to say,
Resist.